The Ensemble podcast is intended for professional financial advisors. This content is created in partnership with our sponsor, Net Wealth Investments Limited, ABN 85090 569 109, AFSL 230975, and is limited to publicly available information. Before acting on any general advice, you should consider whether appropriate and obtain financial advice from a qualified financial advisor. Ensemble does not hold an AFS license and does not provide any financial advice or services or endorse any general advice. If a PDS or IM exists, you should obtain a copy and review it thoroughly before making a decision.
AdviceTech. As if it wasn't enough to be across TMDs, alpha, beta, rule of 72, and all the other nuances of financial advice. Now, advisors are expected to be across all the technology options too, and there's so many of them. But never fear, Peter D is here. Join me each week on a journey of discovery through the software and apps on offer for advisors and advice businesses. So let's dive in, fellow advice explorers.
This podcast is proudly sponsored by NetWealth. Imagine a world where you can offer clients access to local and international investments. A world where you can engage with clients meaningfully, backed by powerful data and insights with mobile-friendly technology. A world where you can build business efficiencies through scaled managed accounts and bulk reporting. And a world where you can get all the latest news, research and insights to spot the changes that really matter. Wealth is more than just money. It's about opportunity and progress. A world of opportunity awaits you at netwealth.com.au/woo.
Hello and welcome to the Ensemble AdviceTech podcast. I should have to pay like $20 every time I get that wrong. It's disgraceful. I'm Peter Diamantidis, and this week we're going to deep dive into TikTok. And joining me here today is he's been outsourced in a past working life, which can't have felt good at the time, I'm sure. It's actually started in entry-level client service in financial planning, however, is now a principal of the firm he's with and is a fellow host on the Ensemble podcast. Thank you so much for joining me on the show, James Wrigley. Woo!
Thanks for inviting me on, Peter. Good to have a chat with you. We haven't actually spoken before. We've kind of interacted on the internet, but
right.
Here we go.
I feel like that a host interviewing a host, we might break the space-time continuum or something by doing this.
Hopefully it survives. We'll be okay.
Exactly. Now, super keen to pick your brain on all things TikTok, but I did want to take a moment, like we always do, to get to know you a bit better through your use of other technology. So tell us, what is your most used emoji? Do you even use emojis? You must, surely.
Yeah, I saw that in the questions. Like, you know what? What is my most used emoji? I reckon if I go to messages and I try to type one now, what's it going to say? What's it going to come up with? The frequently used is like the laughing face with the two tears, and then the next one's the brain exploding. And then the next one after that's the celebration kind of popper cracking thing. So
nice.
It's that smiley laughing one with the tears.
But they're all quite descriptive. I like it. I am noticing a little bit of a generational difference when I ask that question. Certainly people more in my generation, and I'm betting, James, without pigeonholing you, you are a millennial, if I had to guess.
Yep.
And I am firmly in the Gen X category, and in our generation, thumbs up is really popular, right? Whereas for you guys, not so much. Generally, it's not something you'd use. No. So that makes a lot of sense. How about, like, you just picked up your smartphone, so clearly it is something that, like all of us, we've got right there next to us. You had to wipe everything off and you only had to keep 3 apps. Which 3 would you keep?
My email, my text, and my phone. Even though we're here to talk about TikTok, my phone.
Your phone.
Like, so you actually use the phone for a phone.
Really? Wow, they might kick you out of the millennial club there. You'd have to be careful.
Like I very rarely answer it. There's always a little notification thing next to the voicemail, and then I have to remember to listen to it. So
I'm the same. Suddenly go, how are there that many? Oh, I haven't looked for a long time.
I'm supposed to listen to those things.
Exactly. So we'll dive into TikTok. I guess I should, full disclosure here, folks, and being a little bit vulnerable given I am, into tech and love tech, I do not currently have a TikTok account. right? So fessing up here. So there's a good chance that some of these questions will be somewhat more idiotic than they might otherwise be. So I'm hoping, James, you and the listener can be a bit patient with me. But I think that's a good way for us to approach this, is, from absolute beginner to a guru. So when did you first sort of sneak in to check out TikTok? I'm imagining you stalked a bit, did you, for a while?
Yeah, so I did. So it would have been, so what are we, kind of halfway through 2023 nearly. It would have been probably late 2021. I probably opened an account late 2021.
Yep.
And then, actually, I can remember being at the FPA conference, which was down here in Melbourne, which was probably October 2021 or something like that. I didn't know, how am I supposed to use this TikTok thing? I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And I can remember sitting in the audience and I took a video of some performance that was on the closing ceremony thing. And I put some text across it. And I didn't realize I had a spelling mistake in there. And so I put this video out and some guys, I had 3 followers. It's not like it went anywhere at that stage, but some guy commented on there saying something along the lines of get your spelling right. Probably would have been October, whenever that was, October, November, probably 2021.
Yeah,
and I fumbled around for a while trying to work out how do I use this thing for my financial advice things that I'm talking about on all these other platforms.
Okay.
How do I try and make that work on TikTok?
So it was very much you were already, and I could see that even from your LinkedIn feed, sort of actively putting things out there before that on other platforms. So it wasn't like you were sort of new to content at all.
No.
Yeah, it was just that this new platform, how do I use it and how do I apply it? Yeah,
so I've been used to LinkedIn in particular, where I'd put my shirt on and I'd make sure my background was nice, and and I'd sit there and it was all kind of quite serious. I'd be talking about whatever it was that I was talking about, but I felt that because it was on LinkedIn, it had to be that bit more polished and a bit more professional. And so then it was, how do I then morph that into TikTok, which at the time was people miming, and it still is mostly, dancing to songs and miming and all of these kind of things.
Right.
And you don't want to see me dancing, nor do you want to see me miming to a song. So
well, maybe you might get lots of followers, but I'm not sure to get you many clients, right?
How do I, this platform that seems like it's exploding from what I see and read, but it's just starting out in Australia, and I'm dealing with financial advice. How do I get that to work? So it took a bit of time.
Yeah,
sure.
Okay. And just to give us a sense of that, so you may not know off the top of your head, but on LinkedIn, do you have a sense for how many followers you have on LinkedIn?
About 7,000.
About 7,000. So that's quite high. I mean, you that's a big figure. You sort of, without going hard on it, somebody might have 1,000 to 2,000. But so clearly that's something you have applied energy on.
I went hard on LinkedIn very early on.
Yep.
So I kind of got to like 6,000, and then between 6 and 7's taken forever.
Right. And so to compare it then, where are you at on TikTok?
Just about to hit 41,000 on TikTok.
Okay. And so let's then talk about the difference between the two as an example, because it is the work you're doing is to attract clients. I'm assuming you don't want to get on TV, or there's some other purpose for it. That's like, I'm going to be on it.
Yeah. So whether it was LinkedIn, whether it's TikTok or whatever, it started out as a means to try and attract clients.
Okay.
I watched a lot of Gary Vee. Listeners might have come across him. I watched a lot of his stuff for years, a little while back, and they kind of had this idea at one stage in my head. It's like, how do I get people to know that I exist when I'm actually asleep? Like, rather than having to go and talk to this accountant or talk to this mortgage broker or, the normal things that you would do, the kind of the networking things.
Yeah.
I have to constantly go and see this person and then these people, and then I'm saying the same thing over and over and over to all of these different people in the hope that one of them likes me and all of a sudden will refer their clients to me. And then it clicked. I'm watching all of this stuff. There's the internet. I can put a video out on the internet and some people will watch it.
Yeah.
And so that's where it started. Then I guess the difference is they're just chalk and cheese.
Yeah.
The two. LinkedIn is. I'd be interested to see the statistics on it. I suspect there's more older males on LinkedIn. I would just be my guess as the demographics of people
just to
on there.
reflect business generally, probably. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Whereas TikTok, there's anyone on every shape and size.
Yep.
Is on there.
Yeah.
And it's much more kind of playful and you kind of people are more enjoying themselves. People are going there as a bit of an escape, and then so there's me interrupting their escape, talking about superannuation.
Don't you get you have too much fun now? Yeah. Did you, to that end, do you find that it is bringing out more sort of fun or a looser style of presenting because of the environment it's in? Are you finding you're relaxing more into that as you do it more?
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's really interesting to see. So I'll record one video and I now put that in a few different places.
Yep.
I've become a lot more relaxed with my style of videos. Let's just practice, video after video after video after video. The ums and ahs and I didn't mean to say that word, and just correcting myself in the video and just rolling with it. That's normal. Having a conversation now, we'll each stumble our words from time to time.
Yeah.
You get used to that. That becomes more real, more personable. And then it's interesting to see that if a video does really well on TikTok, and it might be me in my hoodie at nighttime, I've just cleaned up the dishes and I'm answering some question. I put that same video on LinkedIn. It actually does really well on LinkedIn too, where I thought I had to be sitting there in my shirt and tie, being all professional, but it's really me. The light's not amazing. The sound's not amazing. I've got my hoodie on, and as I said, I've just cleaned the dishes after dinner at nighttime. Yeah. That video does just as well on, not to the same extent, but it does well relative to others. On Instagram, it does well relative to others on LinkedIn. So it's almost, you can almost use it as a testing ground.
Yeah.
Try things there, and then it tends to work well in other places.
The thing that, and look, an example of what you're talking about there, where you just sort of correct yourself live, is literally what I just did in the introduction, where I messed up, right? And I said XY instead of ensemble. And you're right. There's a confidence where you just go, well, that's just what it is, and I'm just going to power through. The more you do it, the more relaxed you are. And I think the audience gets more relaxed with you.
Yeah. And it's also what it took me a long while to realize when I first started putting myself out there on the internet. Some people aren't going to like me, and that's okay.
Right.
And it's I would much rather that they saw my video and they go, this financial advisor wearing his hoodie, I can't possibly go and see that guy. Forget about it. Great.
Yeah.
They were never going to like me anyway, so they haven't wasted my time. I haven't wasted their time. They've made some decision on me and move on.
Yeah.
But what I'm actually finding, it's the reverse. When you're letting people into the real you of kids running in the background, or I'm outside in the backyard and the neighbour next door is cutting their grass or whatever, when you're actually letting your guard down a little bit, that they're the ones that really get the cut through, and the response that comes back is amazing.
Yeah. And look, I got wonderful advice some years ago from my speaker coach, Andrew Griffiths, who is wonderful and a broadly good guy, but he actually pushed me hard on this very topic. So, really leaning into who you are and the things you love and, all those sort of things. And his view is, if you haven't got somebody who doesn't like it, you're not being enough of yourself. He said it should actually get a visceral reaction. So not just being objectionable, right? Some people do try that, and I don't think that's necessarily them being themselves. It's more just be more you, and attract as much as you repel. I completely believe in that.
Yeah, I did some videos. I had a cap on. It was literally a Saturday afternoon, and I was recording a couple of videos at home, and I just had a baseball cap on. And someone commented on there saying, "Oh, I'd never go and see you. Can't trust you with a baseball cap on." I'm like, seriously, it's just a hat. Like, you can look at my 700 other videos that are here, but the one with my baseball cap, you've got a problem with. Like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah. And I mean, take a look at the most dishonest and sharky sort of people historically, and they're all wearing very, very nice suits with wonderful hair, and like that's not an indicator at all, guys. Your radar's broken if that's the way you're measuring somebody these days.
Yeah.
But I think also there was a conditioning where, polished video, like that full production, the full deal was what we expected because it's the only thing we saw because we were watching TV and it was full production. Whereas now it's the other way. I actually think we all get a bit repelled by full production. I even noticed that a bit with events for providers when you watch them and they're doing that online thing that's really a well produced thing, and it sort of feels a bit like advertorial. We're all a bit conditioned to like things a bit more relaxed now, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm really curious because it's not like you sort of started in a, entrepreneurial, you had your own business and started doing this. You were doing this while working within a firm, now principal, of course, but it is an interesting environment, right? Because some people might think, I could never do this because I'm an employed advisor, what would you say to them about how they could approach this, you know, say with an employer in a group? What things, you know, can they be aware of, or how do they start that discussion?
So I guess you've got two options with how you can go about it. There's the route that I went down, and that might not work in every business, and then there's another. So the first route is just to do it.
Yep.
Rather than ask for everybody's permission, because the size of the business that you're in, the business that I work in is a reasonable size. This person has to say yes, this person has to say yes, this person has to say yes. Yep. Whereas the way that I went about it back then was I just started doing it, and nothing happened for a long time. So no one really cared. It's okay, great, you're doing these things. Now, head of compliance every now and then would be just like, just make sure, you're not talking about these things. And, there's this ASIC thing. ASIC's just banned this person. Just be careful. So you need to be careful of what you're saying and tread carefully. But from where I started was just an element of I hardly had any followers. There was no one really watching what I was putting out anyway. No one really cared. I was just doing this thing, and there's James going to record another video. It's blown up in the last 12, 18 months or so, to the point now where people are saying, what are you actually doing there, and maybe can we try and do something similar? And so there's early conversations of trying to do something similar. Yeah. So that's the first option, is just don't ask the permission, just do it.
Start.
But you're going to have to get a sense of where you work, and is that actually going to fly where you work or not. Fortunately, my manager, there's still a manager now, is just kind of given me enough space to just do my own thing, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, that's also great.
Yeah.
Then the other option is to ask the permission beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to want to arm yourself if you're going down that route. Well, either way, you need to be conscious of it, but you need to just be aware of what you can and can't say is the biggest thing. So the compliance and the licensees and all the rest of it, they're going to be petrified that you're going to be giving advice on these platforms.
Yeah.
And so, there are other financial advisors putting videos out on TikTok, and some of them are putting some general advice disclaimer in the comments, or they're overlaying it on their video, and different licensees will have different responsibilities or different expectations on you for that.
Yep.
So you might want to understand that first.
Yep.
But then I find those kind of things start to then you tend to start make excuses for not doing it. It's like, I don't have a great phone, I don't have a camera, my licensee this thing, my licensee that thing, it all gets too hard and you do nothing.
Yeah.
I prefer to do it first and then ask for forgiveness later.
Look, and the thing is, so let's imagine you're in a really restrictive environment from a compliance perspective, and some people do work in places where it's just everything's watched and monitored, and then there are lessons from advisors in the States where there's a lot of controls around what some of them can say, if anything at all, and they had to get creative, and so they talk about everything but it's all around it, and it's the emotional elements of money, and it's like there's things you can still engage on. So, if you know who you're talking to, and I'm assuming and I can see even on the website, you've chosen people that you're looking for, a type of client, then they're handling all sorts of stuff. It's not just money. There's lots of things going on in their lives. So, maybe it's about everything else, and surely that's not a problem.
And I reckon probably more than half of the attracting the right clients is just constantly showing up.
Yeah.
So that, I think it matters less what you're saying. It obviously matters what you're saying, but I think it matters less what you're saying versus that you're constantly showing up.
Yeah.
And people, I even see it now, there's people that I might have connected with on LinkedIn. Someone messaged me the other day. I can look back and I exchanged a message with him something like 5 years ago, and we had no interaction ever since, but this person's just been sitting in there in the background, must have been watching some of my stuff, and all of a sudden he sent me a message, "Hi James, we're thinking of retiring next year. I've seen a lot of your content. Can you help us out?"
Yeah.
And so, it is a slow burn for a lot of those connections.
Yeah, it is. It is interesting, isn't it? And it the consistency thing. I mean, I've even seen it just with the podcast. So this podcast and these episodes. So I guess when did we start? Like second half of last year of 2022, we started the AdviceTech episodes, and what it meant was there's an episode being released every week. So it means I'm on LinkedIn every week. right? Now, prior to that, there was all sorts of other things taking up my time and I wasn't quite as consistent. And I've seen a significant shift in both engagement and followers and all sorts of things on LinkedIn just because of that people see you and they know they're there and they know what the topic is, So, and that happened almost accidentally to me merely because, Clayton said to me, Peter, we'd love you to host this. And I went, yeah, that sounds great. Like it wasn't a LinkedIn strategy, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
But you start to see that. So I agree with you on that. I guess I do have a question around, and you sort of mentioned it briefly before, almost the repurposing thing. When you started on TikTok, were you doing the videos just for TikTok and then you realized you could repurpose them? How did that come about?
Yeah, so I was. So the TikTok app is great for, you get it out, you talk to the phone. They make it really easy to kind of stop and start your video, so you kind of have these jumps in it, which keeps people's engagement, keeps them watching for longer. It's a really simple app to just put the phone in front of your face, record something, and off you go. And it doesn't need to be polished. It works really well on there. So initially I was doing that. The problem then is I've said something to TikTok, but if I try and save that TikTok video, they put a watermark on it.
Okay.
And there's ways around it, but it's just annoying to try and get it without the watermark on it. And I'm sure there's metadata in there that if you then put it on LinkedIn's saying, oh, no, this is actually a video that's been scraped from TikTok and we're going to push it down the rankings and all the rest of it. Then actually reached out to Ben Nash because he jumped onto TikTok after I did and was doing really well. And he started putting out some videos that had these really clear captions on there. I said, how are you doing that? Because I'd done captions on videos in the past and it was all this messing around to do it. And he said, I was just the captions app on your iPhone. So anyway, I got the captions app. That then means I'm recording the video in the captions app, which is not in any of the other platforms.
Okay. And
then I can just, that one video, it's got the captions, got everything on it, and then I can put it in different places. And now it's TikTok is a portrait. Yeah, that's portrait style video that you're putting up. Because of the success that TikTok was having, Instagram's gone more of that portrait style. They call them Reels video, and so that app is really receptive to those types of videos. So then you can put it on there. As I said, put it on LinkedIn. More people use LinkedIn on a mobile device than they do on a desktop.
Yep.
So the 16:9
works there anyway.
Portrait video works really well there as well.
Yeah, okay. And have you taken a look at or considered YouTube Shorts? Have you gone that far? Because it's a similar...
Yeah.
Right, it's their equivalent, I guess.
It is, yeah. So YouTube Shorts is similar. The problem, problems, yeah, probably the right word, at the moment for me anyway, is that the shorts need to be quite short.
Okay.
Last time I looked at it, they needed to be 90 seconds or something like that.
Yeah.
And so the tool that they have is, the YouTube tool is quite cool. You can upload it and you can cut your video down, but I'm trying to get something that I've just cut down to try and get into 3 minutes, now trying to get that into 90 seconds.
Right.
And not many of my videos are that short.
Yeah.
To then put it onto there as well.
Yeah, okay. And it is some of the stuff I'm seeing on Short is actually more like people doing it to somebody else's video almost, like it's them taking a snippet out of something, as a way to sort of highlight an interview somebody did or something like that. So, yeah, okay. So it's but I like the idea of, all right, I'm going to do this once and then, I'll post it accordingly. Have you given yourself a schedule or a day of the week, or is there any way that you're doing so it's not something that's lurking all the time you feel like you've got to do?
No, there isn't. For the success on TikTok, it is something you need to do all the time.
Yeah, okay.
Not I just post one video a week. It's not going to get it done. Like TikTok is, and it's easy to do. It sounds crazy what I'm about to say, but it is easy to do. It's more of a 3 or 4 times a day thing that you need to be trying to do.
Yep.
But again, they've built the app in such a way that is really easy to do. So you might do one original piece. And what I did to get into the habit of having ideas was, if I'd explain something to a client in a meeting, I'd make a note of it at the end of the meeting, and then I'd just do a video on it afterwards.
Okay.
Or if I'm in the office today recording this with you, yesterday I was in yesterday, and I'd just done something on the whiteboard for a client. We're talking about contributions here and pensions there, and I just explained something on the whiteboard, and I take a photo of the whiteboard for my file notes, but then also before I wiped off the board, I just got out my phone and said, I've just had this client come in and we've done this thing and that thing and turned the camera around. And so that made a 3-minute video that's got, 6,000 or 7,000 views since I recorded it yesterday.
Yeah.
But back to what I was saying is that TikTok makes it really easy. Then people comment on there and you can easily respond to that comment with a video. You can click a button, the comment appears up in the corner and you respond back to it.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're having to come up with 3 or 4 unique ideas every day.
Yeah, okay.
You've done one, and I put one unique idea up every few days.
Yeah.
And then in between, you're just responding back to the questions that you get.
Yeah, okay. And so in that sense, it's far more of a conversation than people might think it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Which makes a lot of sense. And to be honest, that's probably what's more appealing to people anyway.
Yeah. And I heard, it's probably in a Gary Vee video from years ago, and again, something that always stuck with me is like, someone invites you along to do a presentation, like there's the Ensemble PD Day coming up. People aren't going to come up on stage and talk about their thing. Someone's going to ask them a question and they're not going to respond or they're going to walk away. But that's effectively what you're doing on your social media.
Yeah.
If you put up a video and someone asks you a question and you don't engage or you don't respond to that, you've done exactly the same thing as if you're up on stage in front of someone and someone in the audience has asked you a question.
Yeah.
So I try to respond back to as many of the questions as I can. And look, it might just be a written response. It might be a video. But you want to try and respond to as many as you can. So as you said, it's this conversation that's going on.
Yeah, okay.
People will then keep coming back. They'll keep coming back. They'll keep coming back.
Okay. And do you think, I'm curious about the next step. So are you making, a concerted effort with some sort of call to action or anything like that to get them off the platform? Or is it just relying on them trying to find out who you are and where you are? Like, how do you get them to take that next step?
Yeah, so on TikTok and Instagram's copied this feature. You can pin a video at the top of your feed. So I've now done, and I've only recently done this, I've got a "Hi, I'm James" video.
Right.
I've got a "This is who I work with" video.
Yep.
And this is what the financial advice process looks like. Those 3 videos are just pinned at the top, one after another.
Yeah.
And then I very rarely in the individual videos that I'm putting up do I say, call me if you've got any questions, that kind of thing. But on my profile, there's a couple of words of who I work with, and then there's a Calendly booking link, and people can book a 15-minute phone call. The few other financial advisors that are doing TikTok have now got that, are all doing that same kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even leave the app. So they go to my profile, they click on the Calendly link, it brings up an ordinary Calendly booking thing.
Okay.
We have that going, rather than going to my personal calendar, we have that going to a generic contact us one.
Yep.
And then either me or someone else, who is available at the particular time that someone scheduled the call for.
Yep.
We'll talk to them and go from there. But there are lots of people that then just go and search me somewhere else. So they're just kind of fact-checking, back-checking.
Yep.
I'll Google my name. So, people searching James Wrigley is like the second highest reason why people land on the First Financial website. It has been for the last year.
Okay.
And that's by and large people coming from TikTok that are then trying to see, is this guy actually real and where does it work and is it a legitimate business, not a scam?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then in a roundabout way, they'll leave an inquiry through the website sometimes too.
Okay. And do you have a sense for the volume of queries that come through?
It's huge.
Okay. So it is. So, because I think that's what, I can hear the advisors' thoughts out there as they're listening.
Yeah.
Like, that's great. You've got this many followers, but do they ever do anything, right? So,
yeah. So we're at and it's all to do with the consistency of the videos. So if I've been busy with work, haven't done a whole lot of videos, they'll drop off.
Yep.
And there's a lag. You kind of got to build the momentum back up again, and then they start to book in. But I keep fairly consistent with my videos. We'll get a dozen inquiries a week.
Okay.
Coming through,
which is heaps.
So I do respond to some of the inquiries. There's 3 or 4 others that do it here as well. That's the part of the benefit of being in such a big business. There's a lot of other advisors that can help with the inquiries that come through too.
And do you think? I mean, one of the things that can happen is people really just, I mean, tire kickers is an awful expression. I don't think that's valid. It's that they have a question that's important to them, but it's sort of a one and done question.
Yeah.
How are you finding that? Are you finding that people do need advice that you then?
There are, lots and the vast majority of them need advice.
Okay.
They want to pay for advice. And
awesome.
They've drawn the conclusion that we're the people that can help them because of the videos that have come up. But again, this is something that I've learned over time is I need to be careful about what I'm talking about. So as much as I only want to work with a certain type of clients, there's kind of two main demographics of clients that I want to work with. If I stray too far from talking about those types of clients and their problems and the things that we're doing for them, then you get all of these other people that are booking in. And so part of the reason why I do, there's a business development element to it, but then there's also just a financial education piece. I get a lot of satisfaction from the financial education piece. So I need to be careful of, I put in a few of the, these are really helpful videos, but they're not the ideal type of client that I really want to be working with and is going to pay the fees that make it worthwhile to operate a business.
Right.
And so you need to get that balance right.
Yeah.
But the TikTok algorithm, call it the algorithm, whatever it is, whatever behind the scenes, it does an incredible job of putting the video in front of the right person that has that complexity or that problem in their life.
Yeah.
It's scary to think the information that they must have on all of the users on TikTok if they can kind of pinpoint it in.
Yeah.
But the number of people that you talk to and say, oh yeah, I've seen your videos and you're talking about exactly the problems that we have, and somehow out of the 26 million or 8 million people that are in Australia, whatever, it's managed to put that video right in front of you. So
yeah.
Must know a lot about you.
Well, and it's a bit of magic, isn't it? But I do think, what you're describing there also is we have to be careful that we're not doing content just because it interests us as opposed to attracting the audience we want. And if you do want to do that, have an entirely different podcast that talks about movies or whatever the hell the thing is that you want to talk about. But, be focused on who you're trying to attract, because I agree with you. You'll get what you ask for. And that's the challenge is you could be resonating with 15-year-olds who want to save extra money out of their chores. Who knows, right? So
like I did a few, with the HEX indexing that's coming up on the 1st of June, I've done a few videos on that, and those videos do really well in terms of the vanity metrics on TikTok because of it's a large part of the demographic that's on there, but they're not terribly great financial planning clients for the type of work that I'm trying to do. They might be suitable for someone else, but not so much for me.
Yeah.
So you got to get that balance right.
And so I am curious. So the assumption by most, and certainly any of the data I looked at, was that TikTok is somewhat, the world of millennials and Gen Z. So that's certainly they were on it first, to be fair. So that's the younger folk. Gee, I sound like I'm like 400 years old. Were on it first. However, your target market is some of that, but is also people that are a bit older than that. Are you finding they're on TikTok too?
Yeah, everyone is on TikTok. There is no age barrier.
Okay.
Whilst you were talking, I kind of brought up my you can see the insights of the followers of kind of where they are and so forth. So as I said, I got 40,000 or so followers. 30% of them are between 25 and 35.
Mm-hmm.
28 are between 35 and 44. 21 are between 45 and 55. So
okay.
What's that? 80% of my followers are between 25 and 55.
Okay.
14% of them are over the age of 55.
Wow.
So they are there. I'll put up a video about the age pension or healthcare cards or something like that, and the comments end up being full of these people that I didn't think were on there. The other question that I get a lot of is, are there actually people with any money on TikTok? that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And absolutely there are. I'll put up videos about people working in tech on their big incomes and their stock that they get vesting, and then all of a sudden you get someone that calls from Amazon and they're earning $700,000 a year, or the the wealthiest person that I've had reach out, not that advice went anywhere, but the wealthiest person that I had reach out had this phone call, and he said, oh, yeah, I've done well in my business and I've got a few assets. I said, oh yeah, tell me what's going on. And he just started talking. I'm like, when is this guy going to stop? And I think at the end, the number was so high I couldn't add it up in my head. I had to tally it up afterwards. So yeah, yes, all ages are on there, and all, as I said, all shapes and sizes are on there. It's really just trying to talk to the people that you want to work with.
Yeah, and yet, look, you sort of got me thinking, because one of the places that I want to start focusing a lot more on is on my generation. So, Gen X, which is sort of the forgotten generation, to be fair. It's talking about baby boomers, talking about millennials, and then there's sort of us in the middle, and we quietly get things done, And the assumption is, oh, no, you wouldn't want to be on TikTok because they're not there. But the other thing is, you can be a louder voice because, you're one of the few that are targeting those people on those platforms. That's another thing that I guess I'm just cogitating through now is do you want to be one of thousands that are talking to those people on a platform, or what if you're one of the few that is, and then all of them want to follow you, So there's probably, we probably need to just let go of those assumptions, right? We probably just need to just start talking. Like, this is just start interacting and communicating. It
is. It's just do it. And it's kind of, what is Seth Godin's, he uses this idea of the smallest viable market to you want to kind of be as narrow as you possibly can. And if you work with 45-year-old females that are lawyers and that's who you work with, if you talk enough about them, you'll attract those types of people. And I can guarantee you they're on TikTok as well, and the algorithm will do a good enough job of putting your video in front of them. Yeah. If you talk enough to that type of person.
So in terms of who you think, because presumably you're quietly watching what others are doing, and you mentioned Ben Nash, but there'll be others too, and globally, talking about financial services on TikTok. Are there any that you think, do – there probably are people who do it really well, but are there any where you think, wow, that's just not going to work, and it didn't, where somebody's tried something and it's like, that's just not how you behave on this platform?
So you need to – you need to get to your point fast,
right?
On there, and so there are a few other financial advisors that are trying it, and they try to keep their punchline back here. I'm talking, and the punchline of what I'm actually trying to say is back over here.
Okay.
But on TikTok, someone's already flicked off by the time you get to that punchline.
Yeah.
And so there's a few tricks that you need to try and do to get the point across of what you're trying to say right at the very beginning, because most people sit on this thing called the For You page and they just flick. And if your video doesn't catch them in that first 1 or 2 seconds, if they can't understand what you're going to be talking about, you want to go on. So it's fair. It's okay to have this long video, but you need to hook them at the start with it. So, there are others that I've seen, and they're not necessarily just financial advisors, but others where they're trying to use it for mortgage broking or whatever else that they're doing, and there's nothing there to hook them at the start. So TikTok have this thing where you can put an overlay on the video. So if you're looking at it on my page and you see all of the videos in one go, it'll give you an idea of what the video is about. But that only shows up if you're on my page. If you're just scrolling through what's called the For You page, that overlay, like a thumbnail kind of thing, doesn't appear.
Okay.
So if you're just relying on that, no one's going to know.
Yeah.
So, some of the things that I picked up was you want to put some text on the screen about, okay, what am I actually talking about? So someone can, in half a second, see what I'm going to talk about. And if that's of interest to them, they'll stick around and watch the video. If not, they'll move on.
Yeah.
And then the other bit is about, and this applies for videos that you'd put anywhere, is making sure you've got the captions on the video, because most people, I think, tend to watch the videos either the volume really low or the volume off altogether. Right. There's very few people are actually sitting there with the volume up loud, and
because we're dual absorbing too. I mean, I do it all the time. We'll have the TV on and something's on, and my husband's watching the footy or whatever, and I'm scrolling, and of course I've got the sound off then. so we all do need to adjust to that. I had a mate talking about it, and this is generational, so I do apologize, but the analogy he gave to how we need to approach these videos is we need to do them like Cliffhanger did. Cliffhanger was one of the first movies ever that was an action film where they had the action as the first thing that happened in the movie.
Yeah.
Prior to that, there was always the slow burn and it built up and then there was the big thing. Whereas Cliffhanger was like, oh my goodness, right at the beginning, hooked us in and then you couldn't look away. And he said, that's what we've got to be doing. It needs the cliffhanger up front.
Yeah, that's it. So when when you're talking to your particular type of client, it's, you're a 45-year-old, female lawyer. You want to get that like right at the start.
Yeah.
Like, oh, hang on, that's me. Oh yeah, I'll listen to what this guy's got to say.
Yeah.
Whereas if you leave that right to the end, they're not there anymore to see it at the end.
Yeah. And that's probably true of, with any of our writing, or even you might be doing a LinkedIn newsletter or any of those things, we probably need to be a bit more respectful of people's time in that sense. Not many people have time to sit down to really absorb and just go, you know what, I am going to sit through this long thing knowing that you'll get there eventually. Most of us are just trained for it to be shorter, right? And we're trained to need that hook. So, we probably, and I mean, maybe we're one of the worst. Oh, maybe law's worse, but where we do pontificate, don't we? I mean, all of our documents include pontification. It's just torturing absolutely. Our clients. So, okay. So that's fair. So let's talk. Are there anything about, I don't know, the way you've set it up from a two-factor perspective? Like, has anybody ever tried to hack your account, or anything like that, or create a copy or that sort of stuff?
Yeah, tons. So, my account gets copied regularly.
Yep.
Out on TikTok, any variation. So I think my name on there is James Wrigley, or I am James Wrigley. But then when you look at my page, it just says James Wrigley. So all of these variations of, you can look at words and if you get the letter at the start and the letter at the end, and your brain kind of already knows what it is.
Yeah.
So any variation of starts with J and ends with Y and has a W somewhere in the middle.
Yep.
They just come up with these pages all the time. So I actually have to go and search my own name on TikTok and go in and block and ban these accounts.
Okay.
So it was, and I've had to stop people being able to save my videos because people were saving them and making duplicate accounts where they'd grab 30 or 40 of my videos, make a brand new account, and then go out and connect with all of my followers and send them messages.
Yeah.
Text me on this WhatsApp number, that kind of thing. So that is all over TikTok. That's the scary bit.
Yeah.
Whereas that hasn't happened to me on any other platform. It's only happened on there.
Yeah.
So then every now and then I put up a video and say, beware guys, and you can do this green screen thing. So I take a screen grab of all of these fake accounts and it's behind me whilst I'm talking, saying, be careful, I'm not going to go on here saying text me on this WhatsApp number. If you really want to talk to me, there's a link in my profile and I'll call you from the booking that you make from there.
Yeah, okay. And look, it's something we've just all got to be ready for. It's happened to us on Facebook. It's happened, on all of these things. I think we've just got to, like you say, be aware of ways that we can protect ourselves, but also protect the public. And that, I mean, that's a bigger and bigger concern, isn't it, these days, is that somebody, not just that they might pretend to be you, but also will lead somebody astray while they're pretending to be you. That's the last thing you want. Yeah.
And we're in a roundabout way talking about money and finances, and that's where the scammers want to be, to try and rip some money off you. So we're already talking about things that the scammers are going to love. And then if they can take the relationship that you've built with these people online and try and rip them off, it's not great for the brand and all the rest of it. Who will be looking after these people?
Exactly. Now I'm curious. So clearly this is part of the attraction funnel, and that's what it's doing. Are you using it in any way for current clients? Like, is there any way you're using the content, or that you've found current clients commenting on the fact that they've seen you online?
Yeah. So it's attracting clients that are then continuing to watch my videos anyway once they actually become clients. And so that works really well. We've used some of my videos as ideas for building blog posts for our business website and that go into the newsletter. So you can say, this video did really well. People must be really interested in this particular topic. Okay, right. Well, that's an idea that we'll do and so then the content writers that do the blogs for our website, they're always looking at my TikTok and seeing what's working and what's not, using that as ideas. Then they'll write something, and then every now and then they'll embed my video in that as well. So
yeah, okay.
It is being used in other means. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things and I know I'm bad at it, but I think in the industry generally we are, is not taking full advantage of every piece of content you're creating, like really not utilizing it, repurposing it, turning it into something else. A blog gets turned into a video, gets turned into it, like we just don't do that enough, which is crazy.
And it takes a lot of time, unless you're paying someone to do it. It takes an extraordinary amount of time. Like I do my own videos and posting and editing those. Most of the time I'm doing that whilst I'm on the train commuting somewhere home. I'll record a video during the day. I'll save it in the drafts there and then edit it and stuff on the way home. But then if you're running your own business and then you're trying to write your own content for your website and reposition, that's going to take you days and days and days.
Yeah.
To be a content generator. Yes. Let alone a financial advisor at the same time.
Yeah. And I guess that's, you and I were talking off air before we press record about, banking some of these episodes we do for the Ensemble podcast. And it's about, sort of knowing that you've got some such that our wonderful producer Kieran can then be releasing them appropriately every week. And I guess, is there any element of you doing that where you're like, you've got a thought, you do a video, and it just goes into your bank of things and you'll get to that editing and then you'll release it over time? So is there a narrow gap between when you've recorded and when it goes live on TikTok, or you finding you bank them up?
So TikTok, it's almost instantly. What I was doing on LinkedIn years ago was a bit more scheduled. I think I was putting out a video on, say, a Tuesday and a Thursday or something like that. And so those videos, because the tools didn't exist to make it really easy to edit and do the captions and all the rest of it back then, it was a fair bit of work. I'd have to record it. I'd have to export that to my computer. I'd have to do this thing. I'd have to do that thing. It was a whole process.
Yeah.
And so in that environment, I would record a whole lot of ideas. Then over a period of a couple of weeks, I would do the editing that I needed to do and then just release them slowly.
Mm-hmm.
But because the tools are now so good on your phone, it's almost instantaneous.
Okay.
Where I've done it, I've thought of it before, where then I'll record this video and I'll post one today and then I'll post one tomorrow, and every now and then I do it. But now, because it's all just so fast, between me recording a video, it might take me 3 minutes to do a few touch-ups at the end and then it's ready to go and post it.
Okay.
I just post it. Once I've done, I just put it out.
Just get it up.
Might mean on one day I'll put out 3 videos and then the next day I'll do nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, well, doesn't matter. I don't think in the TikTok universe it matters that much.
Okay. And I guess that's probably interesting insight for people, because certainly the feedback you get about LinkedIn is that very much matters. So the timing of when the post goes up and therefore when people respond, whereas it sounds like the algorithm for TikTok, which you would expect, is different, because it's not business related. It's not for certain hours of the day, So.
Yeah. You can get on the creator side of the app. They can give you some history of when people are actually watching your videos, and you get this timeline, and I get this peak at about 7 a.m. People are watching whilst they're having their breakfast or something, and then it dies down through the workday, and then it really ramps up towards 9 p.m.
Yep.
And then after 9 p.m. it falls off a cliff. Everyone goes to bed.
Yep.
And so I have found that if I post in those hours between about 7 and 9, there's a large proportion of my followers are online.
Yep.
And those videos, if the video is half decent, tend to do really well if you're playing that game, getting it in that window. But outside of that, I found it doesn't really matter that much, and they actually have quite a long lifespan.
Okay.
Content on LinkedIn, unless it does exceptionally well, is dead within a couple of days.
Yeah.
No one's looking at it. It's well down. Even though there's not that much content being posted on LinkedIn,
no,
they just don't keep that post live.
Yeah.
Whereas some of my videos, I'll have posted them, might have been 6 months ago, and for some reason it's just appeared in someone's feed, and it just keeps coming up.
Okay.
So the life expectancy of a TikTok video is a whole lot longer, which gets back to, I don't think it matters that much when you're really posting it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and that's good, because that can take away one of the many things we overthink when we're doing these things is, when should I've posted, and, all that sort of stuff. So if you can sort of get that out of your head and just start doing it, then that sounds to me like a good plan. Is there any plans you have, or that, to progress beyond what you're doing now down the track? Is there any ways you plan on taking it further?
I'm really enjoying making the content. So it's more about it's more about, rather than taking that further, it's more about evolution of what I'm actually doing from a day job perspective.
Yep.
So like I'm also a host of one of the Ensemble podcasts, which if I wasn't doing these videos, that opportunity would have never come up. That wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
So different opportunities for different things do start to present themselves.
Yeah.
As it from a business development perspective, it's working so well that that's then giving me other opportunities within the business here. So it's I've as a result of that, I've built a much bigger team of people around me. I'm in charge of a team of 11 or 12 people now, whereas a few years ago it was just me, and then I had an associate advisor, and all of a sudden it's this massive team.
Yeah.
Which really wouldn't have happened if I wasn't doing this. So it's not so much a change in doing that. It's more about how can I adjust what I'm doing in my day job to ultimately probably do more of that, whether it's have our own podcast here, do more of these videos, try and train others on it, and do a bit of a training academy in-house to try and get more people doing this kind of thing. That's probably the changes that are more likely over the next 12 or 18 months, I think.
Yeah. And look, it's all of us need to go through these sort of adventures to find the thing that really resonates and lights us up. And it can take a long time to find those,
If you went back and asked the year 10 me at high school to say you're going to be doing a podcast and putting these videos out, and like, Clayton and Emily have asked me along to be one of the host people for the PD day in a couple of times. Like, I'm going to be standing on a stage. Well, that's just crazy. That sounds absolutely crazy to me. But, year 10 high school, and they would have said, no way, you can't possibly do that. But as you said, try and you find stuff that you really enjoy, and I'm loving it.
Absolutely. And the thing that's different these days than it was years ago is years ago, only people with a certain style, training and background ended up being those speakers, or ended up being, like it was almost like the sort of newsreader approach. If you didn't look like a newsreader, or have that style, you were never going to, become one of those people. That's just not the case anymore.
No.
Every voice is welcomed and encouraged. And so that does mean if you enjoy it, it's just finding the audience that loves your voice, so who resonates with it. And you don't have to be the most gregarious or the loudest or the funniest or any of those things. Yeah. It's just got to be you and the you that resonates with them.
Yep.
For sure. Have we missed anything? You feel you need to?
I don't think so. There was some of the tips on actually using the platform itself with the captions, and make sure you've got a bit on there to kind of grab the person's attention, or at least tell them what you're going to be talking about in that video.
No, all good.
No, I think that's probably it. Yeah.
Look, and clearly we should all go and check you out. That's the first thing I'm going to do.
Give us another follow.
TikTok, exactly, is my little one to add to all the others. But folks, if you'd like to find out more about James, then his LinkedIn profile will be in the show notes. But of course, you can just listen to episodes of the Ensemble podcast too. He'll be appearing back in his world on his. Now, what day are you, James? On Fridays. What day are you?
Thursdays mine go out.
Right. So we're podcast buddies. It's all good. So thank you so much for joining us, James, and just sharing all of these insights. I'm personally very grateful, and I'm sure lots of people out there will have got huge value. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for having me.
So, do you use TikTok from a professional perspective to attract leads, or to potentially get new clients or get a bigger audience? I'm betting probably not. Most financial advisors or people working in financial advice aren't, as I understand it. There's a few standouts like James and Ben, but there's lots that aren't on there. So I'm curious, what that conversation prompted, what you think about heading onto TikTok. I'd love you to share your insights on the Ensemble platform, and maybe any further questions you have or curiosity you have about using TikTok. As for my thoughts, there's a couple of things that really stood out for me there. One is we've really got to stop assuming which members of the public are aware, and can they afford advice or not, and is that generation on this platform or not, And I mean, I did some digging before the interview, looking at the proportion of TikTok users and what generation they're on. And, sure, there's a lot of young people on there, but like James said, there are Gen X, and there will be even some baby boomers on there, right? Now, the interesting thing about all of this is, Gen X, for example, are the next big generation that are going to be approaching retirement in the next 10 to 15 years. So, there's real opportunity here. And I think we've just all got to get out of our heads and our assumptions of where people are playing. And I put myself firmly in that too, because I had made the assumption that it probably wasn't for my audience. So I really think that's important. But to James's point, who are we trying to attract? Narrowing that down and just talking to them, being that voice for them, I think is really important. And then, aside from that, we just got to try these things out and give them a whirl. And start, even at the very least, stalking, just get on there and start looking at what people do and check out the way they do it. You don't have to do the same though. And I think that's the other thing that I think is interesting if you sort of line up James and I right next to each other in terms of style and approach and, here's me, give me a mic and I'm happy, right? And, I'm happy to talk about anything. I love being on stage, all these sort of things. I'm that pain in the ass. Whereas, James is a more considered and thoughtful sort of approach, maybe even a bit quieter. And I think the mistake we make is assuming that people don't need to hear both those takes. There's going to be people that resonate well with mine, but there's equally going to be just as many, if not more, that resonate with James's. And it's a mistake to think that, look, people just aren't going to want to hear from me. I just think that's a mistake. Each of us has our own take, our own unique lived experience that we can share. And of course, our insights as it comes to finance. So, I think we sort of get over ourselves a little bit, and own what you're about, why you think it, why you think you can really help people, and start talking to them. So I'd really encourage you to sort of get out there a little bit. And if you're worried that nobody's going to like or look or follow, then you know what? I will. So if you're concerned you're not going to have a follower on any of these platforms, reach out to me and I will be one of them. I promise, right here and now. You've all heard it. So you can all keep me accountable. So now, as you know, I, often get asked what it takes to become a real bionic advisor, that advisor that's got the right tech for their practice and it's just keeping it humming. And the answer is simple. It's just about curiosity. And that's the one thing that I have in spades that I know adds real value to our practice. So to get your curiosity muscles working, as you know, each week we have our Curiosity Corner app that I share that I just want you to have a little looky-loo and check it out and see what you think. Now, this week's Curiosity Corner app is called Llama Life. You heard me right, folks. The animal llama, Llama. The app is Llama Life. You can find it at llamalife.co. That's LLAMALIFE.co. And their tagline is, say goodbye to never-ending lists and hello to daily bliss. And what I love is next to that is an image of this cute cartoony llama and it says, time to focus, no problema. And it's dorky as all get out. And as you can tell, really appeals to my sense of humor. How can you not want to check out that app, right? I mean, for me, like the minute I saw it, I'm like, yes, I want to know more. So this is sort of for those of us that, really find ourselves waking up to, really long list of to-dos, things that have been nagging at you for weeks that you need to get done. You might start on your list and then you end up abandoning it to sort of check out more important stuff that you get distracted by. And the list of to-dos just keeps getting longer and longer and longer, and it becomes so overwhelming that you can't even look at it. Like it's quite distressing in that sense. And, you feel like you never start on anything, and so you sort of go to bed every night with this monster list, and it's just sort of towering over you, right? Day in, day out, and is quite demoralizing in that sense. What Llama Life does is it turns your tasks into manageable bite-sized chunks, right? So it's just trying to get you to focus on one task at a time. It sort of celebrates with you when you cross off a task, and it honestly looks like lots of fun. Like, it really is designed to be a bit cheeky, a bit silly, and a bit fun. But what's interesting to me is, as I dug further and I looked at a lot of the reviews and comments about the app, that the popularity has come about because people who have ADHD or ADD have found it immeasurably valuable. It has really helped them break through, give them extra focus on just what they need to do today, right? And just tick some things off the list. So, to me, that says a lot. If people who, can struggle with that focus, by definition of a condition they have, this app really resonates with them, then I think, lots of us could probably get some benefit from that. So, go and check it out, folks. Let me know how you go. And I myself will be playing with it and seeing what comes of it, seeing if I can knock off a few things off my list and feel that little bit more productive in the day. Welp, that's all we've got for you this week. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you'll get your Advice Tech fix automatically sent to you each Friday. And of course, you'll get to hear from James each Thursday. So, double trouble there. And if you are keen to hold, a team building event, for your financial advice practice or broader, or maybe in your dealer group, that really sort of ignites their curiosity, then I would love to run an Awaken the Misfit Within workshop for your team. We get them out of survival mode. We sort of move beyond just adulting and sticking in the hamster wheel, and we move them right into adventuring in life. I love the conversations and the connections created when we do these workshops. They're truly incredible to watch people light up and get to know their peers better and get to understand what they're all about and what they want out of life. The team build their curiosity muscle and learn a skill actually in curiosity that they can then apply in the practice for future innovation efforts. So it's sort of got benefits personally, but also starts to build that imagination capital for your practice. If this is of interest, then please reach out to me on LinkedIn /PeterMD. That's PEITAMD. Otherwise, I'll look forward to turning up in your earbuds next week. And remember, Advice Explorers, stay curious.